Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Uh, how many participants? Okay, one, two, three, four. Just wait for one more. Now school holiday, right? Classes still on or not? Okay, right. The question is like this, right? Now, when we look at the function, right? The first chapter in Form 1 on functions. So we are we have seen not all relations, not all mappings, they are relations, they are functions. So only some of them they are functions. So I go through one more time which one is a function, which one is not a function. Okay, so we look at this first relation here, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as the elements in the domain, and A, B, C, D, E as the elements in the range. So this relation, it maps one element in the domain with one element in the range. So this type of relation is called what? One-to-one relationship. Now, one-to-one relationship, is it a function? Yes, it is a function. Then we have over here one-to-many. Now, how to see whether it is one-to-many or not? If you look at one element in the domain, it maps onto two elements in the range, or in the set here on the right hand side. So this one-to-many, it is not a function. It is not a function. Then we have over here many to one. Many to one, it means that sometimes you may have one element mapped to one element, one to one, one to one. However, on the other side, one of them may receive more than one objects, right? This one is the image. One image, but you have two objects. Now in this case, we say many objects to one image. Now many to one is still a function. It is still a function, and okay, this is still a function. Okay, so we go on to this one, many to many. So you can see that we have one element here, one object, we have two images, or sometimes we have one image, two objects. So this is many to many. So can you still remember all this? uh, you must be clear all this lah, before I can explain to you the inverse function. So you look at function. In order to be a function, it has to be either one to one or many to one. One to many, many to many, they are not functions. Okay, not okay, not so far. Any corrections? Did I say anything? No, right. So we look at another one, many to one. Okay, many to one. Now this, the top many to one, the G function here and the H function here is a bit different, right? So there are objects here, there are image here, there's no object, whereas these two objects here I cancel off. These two means nothing. We look at this one again. Why I say this is not a function? Now if you look at the objects, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each object has an image. One object, one image. However, there is one object here, 3, which is without an image. Now if there is an object without an image, then this is not a function, right? Even though you have 1 to 1, 1 to 1, very nice, but as long as there's 1 here without image, there's one object without image, then it's not function. So normally when you look at the exam question, they will give you a function, then they will exclude this number 3, for example. So if they exclude this number, it means that it is a function. But if this number is included, then it is not a function. Okay or not okay? So far okay or not? Megan, can understand or not? Liu Ying said okay. Megan, oh, still doing okay, Megan now. Megan last time towards the end of the year improved already, ma. Now okay or not, Megan? The others okay lah. Karen, Liu Ying, Wan Li, they are okay one last time. Okay, so now I have explained to you which type of relation is a function, which type of relation is not a function. Okay now? So the question now is, we want to concentrate on functions. Those relations that are not function, we don't care, right? Now, among the functions that are among the relations that are function, which one of them the inverse is also a function? Is it? Why they ask this question? It means that functions, okay, when you consider functions, that means they are really proper function, right? They are really functions. Now when they are functions, fine. When they go from object to image, they are functions. But what about this particular function? What about its inverse function? The inverse function, the inverse, is it a function or not? Now sometimes the function, of course, if we say it's a function, then it's a function lah. But the inverse may not be a function. It may or it may not be a function. So the question now is, when is it a function? When is the inverse a function? And when is the inverse not a function? Given the condition that the forward one is a function, given that this is a function, right? Or when they ask you, how about the inverse of this particular function? Is it a function or not? So that is what we are going to answer now, right? Okay, we look at this one. Now this is a function, and this function is one-to-one function. Not only is one-to-one function, but all the elements are all used up. There's no element that's not used up. Not like this one. There are some elements here that's not used up. Then it's not function. Okay. Now this one-to-one function, let's look at the inverse. Let's look at the inverse. Now when you look at the inverse function, that means from the image, you go back to the object. So you see that the arrow, the red color arrow is pointing back towards this one. Okay. Now this set A, B, C, D, E is considered the image. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is considered the object. Now from this right hand side to the left hand side, is it a function or not? Is it one-to-one or many-to-one? Does it satisfy the condition of a function? The inverse of this, does it satisfy the condition of a function? Now the answer is yes. You can see that it is one-to-one also. It is also one-to-one, right? When you move backward, it's also one-to-one. Okay, so now for this particular case, this function, one-to-one function, is a function, of course, and the inverse is also a function. The inverse is also a function. So this is what I want to tell you. Now if you look at this one-to-many, many-to-one, sorry. If you look at this many-to-one, right? You look at the inverse here. From this from this right hand side, go back to the left hand side. Is it a function or not? Karen, is it a function or not? The G inverse. G inverse, is it a function? Karen, does it satisfy the condition to be a function? Yes or no? Hey, Karin, can answer or not?
Is it yes?
No. The inverse for the G, the G inverse is not a function. You see that this is one to many. Can you see this element, this element B here? B maps on to two images. So can this be a function or not, Karin? One, then
No.
you have two. Huh? No, right? This is not a function. So of these two, this one, one to one and many to one, only one to one, the inverse is a function. Many to one, although is a function, but the inverse is not a function. Okay, that is what I want to tell you. When it is a function and when the inverse is not a function. Okay, right? Of course, we have this one, many to one. Many to one, of course, it is not a function. We don't have to consider this case already because it's not a function. Now this one is not a function. We don't have to consider whether the inverse is a function or not. Then we look at this one, many to many. Many to many is not a function. It doesn't satisfy the condition for to be a function. So it's not a function. So we don't have to consider this. Now even though if you look at the inverse, here, it's also many to many. So it's not a function, right? And for this case, many to one, right? This particular case, many to one, right? We look at the reverse. Yeah, the reverse is actually a function, right? The reverse is actually a function. So if the reverse is a function, then you say, oh yeah, this one no. No, because the original one is not a function already. So we don't have to consider the inverse here, right? Any question? Any question so far? You understand what I'm trying to tell you or not? Wan Lee, can understand or not? So like that lah. At least I know you can understand. That's young Wan Lee. Yes. Liu Ying or Wan Lee said yes. Okay, can understand. Now, for the sake of Nurul Iman, she just came in, so I'm going to repeat all over again. Nurul Iman, I'm going to repeat. So let me repeat. Now, what is our problem today, Nurul Iman? Now, the question today is, what we learn is some relationship, they are functions, and some relationships, they are not functions. So we look at these four examples here, Nurul Iman. We look at these four examples here. These four examples, very famous one. We have learned in Form 4. So the first example is one-to-one relationship. One-to-one relationship, is it a function? Yes. Many to one, is it a function? Yes. Okay, on this side here, yes. Now on my right hand side, one to many, this type of relationship, it is not a function. Many to many, this type of relationship, it is not a function. So overall, the big category is relationship. Relationship can be divided into functions and not functions. So you divide it into two. Now the question they ask me is, if a relationship is a function, when is the inverse of this a function or not? Is the inverse of this a function or not? So my answer is, for certain cases, a function, the inverse is a function. For certain cases, the function, but inverse is not a function, right? So those not function in the first place, we don't care really. We concentrate on functions only. So we look at functions. This function, some of them, they have inverse, and the inverse is a function. Some of them, the inverse is not a function. So we are going to look at these two types. These two types, they are functions. These two types, they are functions. So when is this function, the inverse function is also a function. So to look at it, whether the inverse is a function or not, you look at this diagram here. You look at this diagram here. When you start off with the A, B, C, D, E as your objects, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as your image, then can you see it is 1 to 1? So if the inverse is 1 to 1, then the inverse satisfies the criteria of being a function. So when somebody asks you, hey, when is a function and is inverse also a function? So you tell them all the relationship that is 1 to 1 is a function, and the inverse of it is also a function. Now, this is the answer. This is the answer. Now then we look at this case. Hey, this one, many to 1 is also a function. But if you look at the inverse, the G inverse there, it is 1 to many, 1 to many. So this one, for this particular case, the forward function is many to 1 is a function. However, if we look at the inverse, the reverse of this function, it is 1 to many. Now, as we all know, 1 to many is not a function. So this type of function, this type of relation, the inverse is not a function, right? Then the top one, this type of relation, the inverse is also a function. This type, the inverse is not a function. So clear or not, Nurul Iman? Yeah, Nurul Iman. Like that? Or not sure? I explain one more time. Cannot, Nurul. You show your thumb like that, or you say yes, yes, yes. You tell me that I don't understand. Cannot, Nurul Iman cannot understand. Or you don't know where is the thumb. Who is the other participant? No? You said 8 participants. Why only 2, 4, 6 only? Who is the other 2? Nurul Iman say okay. So okay, then that's all. If everybody say okay, then that's all. 2, 4, 6 participants. Okay, so we're going to end this meeting. Okay. Okay. So thank you and goodbye for today. Right? If you have any problem, you just WhatsApp me. Then I will explain in the Zoom. Right? Okay. Thank you.